This morning, an about-face from far-right media host Alex Jones, now conceding the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School in 2012 was real.
It was, especially since I've met the parents, and it's 100% real.
Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake, with actors.
In court yesterday, a bombshell from the plaintiff's lawyer revealing that Jones's lawyers mistakenly handed over 2 years of text messages from Jones's phone.
Mr. Jones, did you know that 12 days ago, your attorneys messed up? They sent you an entire digital copy of your entire cell phone with every text message you've sent for the past 2 years, and when informed, did not take any steps to identify it as privileged or protect it in any way. And as of 2 days ago, it fell free and clear into my possession. And that is how I know you lied to me.
Alex Jones, while on trial for spreading misinformation regarding the Sandy Hook shooting, has perjured himself. But that's not the story. The story is that it was his own lawyers who outed him. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and it was revealed in court that Alex Jones's lawyers had seemingly, mistakenly sent 2 years' worth of digital records, texts, and emails to the plaintiff's legal team. When the attorney asked if Jones's lawyers wanted that to be privileged information, they did not claim it as such, and so it was used in court as evidence that Jones did in fact lie under oath. And it wasn't the first time he had done so. The judge had repeatedly reprimanded Jones for lying on the stand, reminding him that this trial is not his show. He was reminded to just answer the questions that were being asked of him without editorializing, and the judge made sure that he knew that she knew he had lied several times while on the stand. For instance, Jones tried to claim that anything over a $2 million settlement would bankrupt him, but it was later revealed how much money InfoWars actually brings in.
Over the last few days, Alex Jones has said some things that are demonstrably false, just not true on the stand. Things about his, specifically about his bankruptcy, about faux bankruptcy, about his financials. Now we know that's not true.
$2 million isn't going to bankrupt him or his company, but for reference, the parents are seeking $150 million in damages from Jones. The revelation that the lawyer had possession of the texts and emails that Jones had previously said didn't exist was a rare courtroom moment that, in Jones's own words, felt like an episode of Perry Mason. As in, this stuff doesn't really happen in real life. As the trial has progressed, Jones has admitted to the fact that the Sandy Hook shooting did actually happen, while also suggesting that the parents of the victims were being manipulated by their lawyers.
Yeah, so Alex Jones has said he has a torn larynx and has been coughing, I would say, at strategically placed moments all throughout this trial. Scarlett Lewis, whose 6-year-old son Jesse died in Sandy Hook, an event that Jones once said was synthetic and staged, she went over and brought him a bottle of water. Alex Jones went out to shake her hand, but by the end of the conversation, he was telling her that she was being manipulated by lawyers and started screaming at her and another Sandy Hook parent and her lawyers.
He also suggested that he said what he said because everything was already so weird and conspiratorial, which might have been a weak attempt to deflect some kind of blame. He said he didn't like that people had already started blaming the shooting on gun owners, so I guess he took it upon himself to disrupt that narrative. He didn't take into consideration the possibility that he was the one who was spreading and amplifying the same conspiracies that he was so wary about. Nor did he take into consideration what sorts of repercussions his words and actions would have on grieving parents and a small community in Connecticut. Here's a clip from Scarlett Lewis. Her son Jesse was killed in the Sandy Hook shooting, and she took a moment on the stand to address Jones directly.
I wanted to tell you to your face because I wanted you to know that I am a mother first and foremost, and I know that you're a father, and my son existed. You're still on your show today trying to say that I'm implying that I'm an actress, that I'm deep state. You have this week. Sandy Hook is a hard truth. Nobody would want to ever believe that 26 kids could be murdered. Nobody would ever want to believe that. I understand people not wanting to believe that, actually. I don't want to believe it. Jesse was real. I am a real mom. There's nothing out there. Nothing. There's records of Jesse's birth, of me. I mean, I have a history, and there's nothing that you could have found because it doesn't exist that I'm deep state. It's just not true. I know you know that. That's the problem.
In Jones's testimony, he said, quote, especially since I've met the parents, it's 100% real. He also now understands that it was, quote, absolutely irresponsible to push unfounded conspiracy theories to his millions of followers, a lesson that any child should be able to understand, but it took Jones a minute to get there. And he later added that the media wouldn't let him take any of it back. Now, I don't even really know what that means. It could mean a few different things. It could mean that his entire brand is built on pushing lies and conspiracy theories, such as the false claims that he's made surrounding the Las Vegas and Parkland shootings. Those shootings were just two of the examples the parents' attorney, Mark Bankston, brought up in regards to Jones making a career off of outlandish claims. It certainly speaks to the polarization of media and how the most extreme opinions rank better in algorithms. Rage is currency these days, and without inciting rage, would Alex Jones even have a career? Or it could mean that once it's out there, it's out there. The story doesn't belong to Jones anymore. There's no pulling it back in, because as conspiracy theories go, they tend to just compound upon themselves. If Jones were to retract his previous statements, the most devout of his followers would just assume that he confessed under duress or something to that effect. The believers are so convinced in their beliefs that they double down on them, insisting that they are the elite intellectuals who can see through all the veils that the rest of us are blind to. The longer they hold that stance and the more vocally they do so, the harder it is for them to admit that they were the ones who were so obviously duped. So instead, the rhetoric just becomes more extreme and more convoluted, but you know what they say, the simplest explanation is most often the right one. Bankston also brought up the way InfoWars was covering the trial as recently as last week, with accusations that it was rigged from the start, that the jurors don't know what planet they live on, and an image of the judge on fire. So Alex Jones had to meet these parents personally before he was convinced that they weren't liars or actors. He had to meet them personally before he conceded that the shooting where they lost their children was real. But he didn't need to meet them personally before publicly declaring them to be liars or actors, nor did he need to meet them personally before villainizing them as part of his own conspiratorial machinations. It's interesting because it shows how destructive the opinion of one man, one thought leader, one large-scale influencer, or one celebrity can be. Why was he able to do any of this? Why did anyone believe him when he was saying the things he was saying instead of thinking, I don't know, this seems off? We, as a society, put way too much emphasis on individuals, and we're far too reliant on having others form our own opinions for us. Meanwhile, we tell ourselves that we're free thinkers. We delude ourselves into thinking that we've honed in on the best source, the one person who will tell us everything that we need to know about everything. Even in school, they don't let you cite a single source on a paper. You need multiple corroborating sources from various publications to make your point. On top of that, the reality is that we don't really know these people personally. We don't see them when the cameras are off or when they're not posting very carefully curated moments of their lives on social media. We don't know them. And sure, we can respect them for their efforts and their credentials. We can recognize that their ways of explaining or presenting stories are helpful or informative or thought-provoking. We can appreciate the fact that they take the time to inform others about various things going on around the world. But when the facts aren't even being presented anymore, and when the audience stops asking for them, that's a problem. That's when you should start rethinking some of what you would just otherwise accept. And people are fickle. It's easy to fall down a rabbit hole and not even know that you're in one. The more isolated you are, whether that means in your real life or in your digital life, the easier it is for someone to find someone else who echoes and reinforces their own beliefs. I was on Reddit this morning and I stumbled upon a subreddit that self-identified as highly partisan. And that shouldn't be anything to brag about. Being highly partisan just means that you are admittedly unwilling to look outside of the previously established narrative that you've chosen to accept. A narrative that was set by someone else whose underlying motives and ideologies you couldn't possibly be aware of. It's also incredibly arrogant. It's a position that requires you to believe that you know all there is for you to know about the entire world and the people in it. Anyway, on a personal note, I'm from Connecticut, and right after 4th grade, one of my best friends moved away to Newtown, which was maybe like 30 minutes north of me. She actually went to Sandy Hook. I've been to the school. It was a really nice, sweet elementary school in a really cute town. I used to go there all the time for play dates. When I heard about the shooting initially, I couldn't believe it, and it's still kind of wild for me to think about, but I'm glad that these parents finally are getting some kind of, I don't know, like closure feels like the wrong word, but maybe a little bit of justice. I don't even like saying that because no amount of justice can bring their kids back, but the parents who sued Alex Jones are commendable in that they've chosen to use their experience, an experience that most of us will hopefully never be able to understand, to prevent similar situations from happening in the future. The truth matters and lies are incredibly destructive. If you don't like the truth, you can choose to shut your eyes to it. But to amplify a lie in its place just to make yourself feel more comfortable, or worse, to make yourself some money, is, as Alex Jones said, absolutely irresponsible. Thank you so much for being here. If you like this, please like and share and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to follow me over on Instagram and TikTok.